How we doing? How we doing? Are we sitting down yet? Are we having fun yet? Are we having fun yet? All right. And we're getting some great information, are we not? Okay. I would agree with that. Are you guys, I hear some people say they're cold. Yeah, we're a little cold in the room. And then some people tell me they're hot. I'm trying to figure out if people are hot or cold. All the women are cold, all the men are hot, right? Except for Jake. All right, well, we'll work on that. Okay, a couple things. People are asking where are the handouts that we got yesterday at conference, right? For the promotions. I'm told they will be here after lunch. Okay? So for the afternoon sessions, what do you got, a beach ball going on out there? So we will have those handouts after lunch. Also, people are wanting to know, can I get copies of the presentations? And I'm going to try to find that answer out for you. I think the answer is yes. I think what we did last year is we made copies available to you through your back office, right? So I think that's the case, but I will confirm it, and I'll try to get an idea as to when they will be available, okay? All right, so for this morning we've done share, right? And we've done follow-up, right? We all agree that those are a couple things that we need work on. And now we're about to do invite, right? And invite, how many people just said they were good at it? Right, one, okay. How many people said they were scared to death about it? Right, okay. Well, we've got some great presenters for you for this next segment. And the gentleman that I'm going to bring up is someone that I've had the opportunity to work with for the past year and a half. Done presentations with him, gone to his hometown, worked with his organization. And this is someone who I consider to be a fantastic presenter, trainer, okay, with great information. And I think it's going to be a real treat for you guys. So I would like you guys to help me welcome to the stage Mr. Rick Seymour. Rick, come on up.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so I'm your next exciting speaker. You know, I was an aerospace engineer for almost 19 years, and the reason I became an engineer is I didn't have enough charisma to be a mortician. I had no people skills. All my wife had to do to strike terror into my heart is say the word party. There's people at parties. I don't do people. I don't talk to people. I'm scared of people. I avoid people. And then we got in this business called Shackley, and one day my wife informed me it was a people business. And I realized if I didn't change, nothing was going to change. And I'm going to share with you a couple of things today that I think you can walk out of here with that you can implement immediately in your business. I mean, when we do these workshops, we have limited time. And one of the things I found is that you can take one approach where I teach you the 37 things that are important to know about prospecting, or I can teach you one or two things that you can use. So we're going to talk about a couple things you can use, okay? And you can use them immediately. And to get into it, I want you to realize that when we talk about this people business, it's all about building relationship. And the consequence is that we've got to have our heads in the right place before we even begin to think about doing this business. Knowing that you have what people need, knowing that you have something of value, and getting the focus off yourself and on the other person. How many of you, when you first got excited about this business, your whole focus was, what am I going to say? 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 How many patents does Vitalizer have? I don't know. You need to be thinking about them. And the only way you can think about them is to ask questions. And we're going to talk about asking questions. But here's what I want you to think about. One of the areas that most new people especially are a little confused about, should you lead with product or opportunity? Now let me ask you this. If you lead with the opportunity and they're not interested, what can you still do? Okay, if you start with the product and they're not interested, you can't very well say, hey, would you like to sell this stuff you're not interested in? Right? Okay, so whenever you can lead with the opportunity, number one, it's a bigger audience. There are more people that would like to have more time and more money than people who really care about their health or care about the environment or use, natural product, whatever it is. The reality is the biggest market we have is the business opportunity. There'll be more people receptive to that message than to these extraordinary products that we all know we have. So thinking about that, what's it going to take to get to where you want to go? How many of you would like to become an executive coordinator? All right, how many of you would like to add $50,000 a year to your annual income? So I don't care whether you're starting brand new or you're a senior coordinator or you're somewhere else in the business. I don't care if you build the equivalent of an executive coordinatorship, you'll add about $50,000 to your income. So what's it going to take? Well, you got to find 3 people who do it in your lifetime. To find those 3 who really do it in your lifetime, you're going to have a dozen who say, I'm going to do this business. Because the averages seem to be about 1 out of 4 people who say they will do it actually go ahead and do it. To find those 12, the odds are you're going to have to do about 60 opportunity presentations. And to do 60 opportunity presentations, you're probably going to have to approach about 180 people to find the 60 who will give you permission to hear the story. Does that make sense? Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, am I going to make those 180 invitations in my first month, in the next month, or in the next 27 years? It's still the same 180. You get to decide how long it's going to take you and how fast you want to get to your goal. But you've got to go through the numbers. Just know the numbers. They're real. They exist. And I don't care how good you are, you still have to go through the numbers. So just deal with it and know that's the case. Now, all of us start with the list, right? Isn't that one of the first things your upline told you when you got started? You got to get your prospect list together. And it's pretty interesting that if you only have 3 people on your list and the first 3 say no, you're out of business, right? So bigger is better. Because if you got 200 people on the list, first 3 say no, you're thinking, well, I still have 197 to talk to, no problem. Now, here's the challenge. Are you willing to create a big list, or are you going to do what most of us did in the beginning, and we qualified people? We decided whether or not they'd be interested in Shaklee. You don't want to do that, because people will or won't do this business for reasons you can't even begin to imagine, and we've been wrong 95% of the time. People who we said not in a million years became directors in a couple of months. People we said they're going to be our next master coordinators never bought another bottle of Basic Age. We've given up trying to figure it out. Our job is just tell the story to anybody who will listen to us. Let them decide. So the bigger, the better. Now, let's talk about something, though, that I think is important, because you don't want to qualify anybody. Everybody goes on the list, but I want you to prioritize them. Put the people you like the best at the top, the ones you'd love to spend time with, you think you'd love to have them in the business with you. It'd just be fun to be around these people. And the other folks, put them toward the bottom. And I'm going to tell you to do exactly the opposite of what most people tell you. When you start making the invitation calls, and by the way, if you haven't been to Shaklee University and listened to Sean Gray's messages about how to language an invitation, you need to do that 3 or 4 times. I don't want you to memorize what he says, but I want you to take what he says and make it your own. Make it sound like you, and learn how to pick up the phone and make that phone call. But here's what you need to recognize, is that as you do that, I would encourage you to start at the bottom of the list. See, when you start, you're not very good. You're going to screw it up. You're going to mumble. You're going to fumble. You're going to put your foot in your mouth. Now, if you start at the bottom of the list and they say no, you're thinking, who cares? They're down there. Didn't want to work with them anyway, right? So make 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 invitations down at the bottom of the list before you go to the people you'd love to have in the business, so you make the mistakes down there. You will make mistakes, all right? We all do it, but the reality is that'll take you a little time to get comfortable. Will you ever love prospecting? I don't know. I still don't love prospecting, but I'm very good at it. I've learned the skills to do it well. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So, what I want you to do, though, is think about, I want to get through that list as fast as I can. And ultimately, you will get to a place, like Eldana and I, where everybody we know is either in Shaklee or they will never be in Shaklee. Okay? And so now, you got to figure out, how am I going to prospect in other places? And the reality is this, is just live your life and learn how to engage people. That's really what it comes down to. Now, how many of you would like to be in a place where you never hear the word no again? Would that be good? Okay, I'm going to teach you how to do that. And that's what's so much fun about what I'm going to teach you, is that you will own the conversations you have with people. But let me ask you this. Suppose you get sick, and if you're taking enough stuff, you won't, but let's just imagine for a minute. You get sick, go to the doctor's office, sitting on the examination table, doctor walks in, you say, "Doc, not feeling good." Doc doesn't ask you a single question, writes your prescription, walks out of the room. Will you fill the prescription? No. Why not? Because he hasn't diagnosed the problem, right? He's trying to fix you before he knows what's wrong with you. How many of you have tried to fix people before you knew what was really wrong, or they even acknowledged they had a problem? And you do this verbal diarrhea thing where you tell them everything you know about Shaklee. I've done it. Most of you have probably done it. You got to not do that. You got to get in the mode of what I call permission marketing. You never take the next step till somebody gives you permission to take it. Does that make sense? Okay, so I want you to write down and memorize these 7 questions. I call these the 7 magic questions. You learn how to do this, you'll never hear no again. Now, I'm going to lead you through this, and I'm actually going to role play this with a couple of people in the audience so you can get a sense of what it sounds like as we do it. And all I want you to do is just listen to the flow, if you will. It's a conversation. That's all it is a conversation. How many of you would like to be in a place where you could walk into a room of people you've never met before, be perfectly comfortable and in control of everything that happens? Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, it's very cool. So here's what we're going to do. This gentleman right here was trying to avoid my eyes, but didn't make it. Grab the mic. Your name is?
Brooks.
Bruce. Bruce? Rick Seymour. Pleasure to meet you. Now, Bruce, you've never heard of Shaklee. Oh, I'm sorry, Brooks. You've never heard of Shaklee, so you have to think pre-Shaklee, all right? And let's say we meet on the sidelines of one of our kids' athletic events. Okay, it's your kid, it'd be my grandkid in this case, all right? And I just walk up, introduce myself. Rick Seymour, nice to meet you.
Brooks Feathers.
Hey, Brooks, very nice to meet you. Listen, I see you every week standing here yelling and screaming just like me. What do you do when you're not here?
Work.
You do? What do you do?
Finance.
Finance. And what aspect of finance?
Banking.
Banking, really? So you're like the president, or you're one of the analysts? What's the deal?
Analyst.
Analyst. And how long have you been doing that?
About 10 years.
10 years. Oh, you must love it.
It's all right, yeah.
It's all right? Just all right?
It pays the bills.
Okay. What do you like about it?
Numbers and following, helping people out.
Following the trail, doing the analytical thing?
Sure.
What's the downside?
The hours and just tied to a desk.
Now, when you say the hours, are you working like lots of overtime, or just the fact that you have to be there at set hours?
Both are kind of downsides, but, there is some overtime and also it's not very flexible.
Ah, I can understand. So what do you want to be doing in 5 or 10 years?
Maybe laying on the beach.
How are you going to get there? What are you doing to make that happen?
That's a good question.
Well, I was just kind of curious. So have you got a game plan? I mean, is this something you're really working toward, or is it just kind of out there right now?
Probably just kind of out there.
Kind of out there? Well, let me ask you something. If there were a way 5 to 10 years now, you could be laying on that beach, have somebody else pay for that little thing, and create the finances to free you up so you didn't have to go to work every day, would that be something you want to learn about?
Sure.
Now, what did he just do? He gave me permission to ask, right? So, Brooks, why don't we sit down over a cup of coffee? Let me share with you what I'm doing. It may or may not be a fit, but you never know. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I accelerated this for the purposes of getting through this because we're very limited on time. But I've had this same conversation on a ski lift and gotten an appointment in 4 minutes. Okay, I've had this conversation standing on the sideline of our granddaughter's volleyball tournaments that's taken me 3 conversations over 3 tournaments because we kept getting interrupted. But the point was that eventually I get through all of the questions that you just wrote down and get somebody to the point where they say, yeah, I'm open to looking at an option to fix whatever it is. Does that make sense? By the time you've asked somebody what they do like about what they do and what they don't like about what they do, you will have enough information to mold your response to fit what they said. You with me on this? Okay? Now, here's the thing. When I first started doing this, I was in not the right place because I'm sitting there thinking, what's the next question I'm supposed to ask? And I was fussing about the next question instead of really listening to what they were telling me, okay? So it will take you a little time, but it's become part of my repertoire to the point where I don't even have to think about it. It is so natural. I've done this so many times that I could walk up to anybody I've never seen before in my life, introduce myself, engage them, and who controls that conversation? I do. I know exactly where I want it to go. And here's the cool thing. What if, during the course of the conversation, Brooks's answers and responses had been such that I'm thinking, I sure wouldn't want to work with this guy. I could just move the conversation in a different direction, right? Or not even go there. But here's the point. You get to take ownership of what happens in that relationship, and you get to decide when you're going to actually make the approach. Here's what I'd like all of you to do. The next 3 people you meet, I want you to go through those questions without the intent of asking for an appointment. Just have a conversation. Just see what it feels like. And you're going to be amazed at how easy it is once you learn how to do that kind of thing. And then at the end, you can decide whether or not you got guts enough to ask the question. All right? The big one. The one where you're going to ask for the appointment. But the reality is that every one of you can learn how to carry on a conversation very easily with anybody you choose. Okay, now let's take a more generic approach. Yeah, you were trying to avoid my eyes too. Take the mic. Your name is?
Jody.
Jody. Okay, Jody, you and I know each other. I've seen you around. I don't care what the situation is. But you got to think pre-Shackley. You've never heard of Shackley. Okay? So, Jody, tell me about your weekend. Not this weekend, just a typical weekend. Okay? Tell me about your weekend.
I went to the gym, had a barbecue with some friends, and it was very relaxing.
Cool. Is that like an every weekend kind of thing?
Pretty much.
Pretty much? That's awesome. I love it. What's the best part of that?
Just being with friends and family and the people I love.
I love it. So, has this been a pattern you've had for a long time, or is this something you've instituted recently, or?
No, I've always been passionate about going to the gym and working out, being healthy, and been with my husband for 8 years, so it's pretty much an every weekend thing.
That's awesome. Now, tell me about the fitness and the working out thing. Tell me more about that.
Well, I'm very passionate about being healthy and fit. I know it's important for exercise, proper nutrition. it's part of my life, part of my lifestyle.
So what do you do nutritionally to support yourself?
I eat a variety of healthy foods and supplement with the vitamins and.
So how do you choose what vitamins you take?
You know, pre-Shackley.
Free Shackley. It's hard.
Honestly, I subscribe to a health magazine for the last 3 years, and just from reading the articles and what they recommend, and a lot of it was the advertisements, paid advertisements in health magazines really is what attracted me to a certain brand, pre-Shackley.
So tell me about advertising in general. Is that something that you normally take as the gospel truth, or?
Well, being a young woman, we're very impressionable. So when we see an ad,
She is so easy. I mean, it's just.
honestly, when you see this ad of a beautiful athletic woman that, you know, she's taking a certain supplement, you just want to look just like her. You just, right?
Yeah,
So you buy
absolutely.
into it.
Well, let me ask you something. If there were a company out there with some extraordinary science and research behind it that could prove the claims they make, would that be something you'd want to learn about?
If they could,
Yeah.
I would love to see that. I wish they could.
Okay.
They don't. You
Well,
don't always get that though.
You don't. And I'd love to sit down with you for a few minutes, share the company I'm associated with, and see if it's a possibility of a fit for you. Would that be something you'd be open to?
You know what? Yeah, it does actually. Maybe
Thank you
I'm.
very much. Good job. Good job. All right, now, what did I do? What did I do? I just started a conversation. Tell me about your weekend. Okay? And I let her tell me about the weekend, and I picked out one of the paths that she was talking about, and I asked, tell me more about that. And then brought up nutrition with her fitness, and I said, tell me more about that. And then I said, and I asked her what she uses, and I said, tell me more about that, until we drilled down to a point where I had something that I could offer her, right? Is this making sense? See how easy that was? It's a conversation. That's all it is. Don't get all hung up on, what am I going to say? What am I going to share? How am I going to present Shackley? No, it's not about presenting Shackley. It's about getting the right to be heard. Getting an appointment. Does that make sense? Because you're going to find that everybody has either a financial, a health, or emotional need, or all of the above. And all you have to do is ask enough questions to find out what is it, so you can tailor your response to them. Are you with me on this? All I did was say, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. By the time you've done that 3, 4, 5 times, you will get to something that you can work with. So let's try this in unison. Tell me more. Come on, tell me more. Burn that into your brain. If you do nothing else from this workshop, burn that piece into your brain. Just learn how to say, tell me more. You'll be astounded at what begins to happen in conversations you have with people and how it changes the tenor. Because here's what I want you to think about. Most people have never had anybody who take enough of an interest in them, care enough about them, or take the time to engage them and find out what they really care about. Isn't that true? And when somebody will do that, if you really care, if you're really interested, you'll get people's life story in a heartbeat. It's just extraordinary how it opens people up. So realize that it's just asking questions. That's all it is. But ultimately, sooner or later, somebody is probably going to throw something at you that throws you for a loop because you screwed up the invitation or you forgot the 7th question or whatever it was, all right? And so they're going to toss a little bomb in your lap. And you're going to go, oh no, what do I do now? And what happens usually when somebody offers an objection is we get defensive, right? And when we get defensive, what do? We try to justify, rationalize, explain, convince them why they're wrong, whatever it is, exactly the wrong thing to do. What we need to do is learn how to ask more questions. It's crucial Because that's the point in time where you really need to find out what's going on with people. Because, for example, if somebody says to you, it costs too much, it could mean several different things. It could mean, I don't think it's worth the price, or it could mean, I can't afford it. Now, your response to those two things are dramatically different, aren't they? You need to know which one it is, but if they say it costs too much and you immediately start to justify the price or whatever it is, and that's not really the issue, you lose. So the reality is, you got to drill deep enough to find out what's really going on with that person. And to drill deeper, you say, let's do it again. Tell me more. Right? And here's what's so fascinating to me. A good share of the time, you do that 3 or 4 times and drill down, they'll talk themselves out of the objection without you ever saying anything or justifying it or explaining it. It's just the most extraordinary thing to watch if you're just willing to ask questions and open people up. Now, why do you think you should learn how to do this? Let me tell you why. Because if you learn how to handle 4 concerns or objections before you give up, 90% of the time you're going to be successful. 3, 60% of the time you'll be successful. 2, 40% of the time you'll be successful. And if the first time they throw in a concern or objection at you, you fold your tent and creep into the night, you're lucky if 20% of the time you'll be successful. But if you'll just learn how to deal with it, ask questions, open people up, you'll be amazed how much easier this business gets. Now, I want to show you why it's so important you learn how to do this. Because when you start, in order to be great, you're going to have to get good. And to get good, you got to be bad. And if you're like me, to even be bad, you got to be really bad. We are new in Shackley. We are broke. We have 2 old Volkswagens. It takes 2 to keep one running. Keep swapping parts back and forth. And a motorcycle. Live in the mountains in Colorado. It is winter. I commute year-round on a motorcycle because Aldana needed the one running Volkswagen at any point in time to go to work. So, raging blizzard, can't ride the motorcycle. Aldana's left for work. I am out on the road thumbing a ride to work. This is back in my wild-eyed, long-haired, hippie, freaky days. Okay? I'm on the side of the road. I've got my ratty down parka on with duct tape holding the feathers in. Hair out to here, and ain't nobody picking this freak up. And it's cold. It's like 10 degrees out. It's a raging blizzard, and everybody's just passing me by, and I'll bet you would have too. And I thought, well, I wonder if I held up my top secret badge for the company I worked for, if one of the employees would recognize it as they're driving by and pick me up. So I'm standing there shivering with my badge up in the air. And sure enough, this guy named Mo Blackwell stops and picks me up. He recognized the badge. He didn't know me, but he recognized the badge. So he picks me up. Being 2 typical engineers, we had quite extensive conversation. I got in the truck, said, thanks for picking me up, and Mo went. It's about 20 minutes to work, about 10 minutes into the drive. I looked over at Mo. Everything's starting to melt now, right? I look over at Mo and I said, I'm qualifying for a free car. And Mo's like, still hadn't said boo to me, all right? And he's trying to get a little closer to the door because this freak's talking about a free car, and I just picked him up hitchhiking. I saw how he reacted, so I shut up. Takes about 10 more minutes to get to work. As I'm getting out of the truck, I said, thanks for the ride. We hadn't even introduced ourselves, okay? I said, thanks for the ride. By the way, I sell vitamins. I did. I really did. And that was the extent of my conversation with Mo Blackwell. And about 4 months later, I get a phone call. He'd figured out who I was. He called me up. He said, my son's on a track scholarship to CSU. He's about to lose the scholarship. His coach says he needs a good vitamin regimen. I remember you said you sell vitamins. Mo Blackwell led us to Executive Coordinator Pansy Chin, who's in this room someplace, who has made us a ton of money for over 30 years. Here's my point. I don't care how scared you are. I don't care how bad you are. Just open your mouth. You'll be amazed at what happens. Now, I'm going to give you somebody else's perspective on this, because we have with us today a brand new master coordinator, Debbie Underwood. Debbie's hiding around here someplace, right there. I'm going to bring her up to share her take on this, because she was coming from a very similar place to me. They immigrated from the UK 23 years ago. She was a physical therapist. They were introduced to our industry when they had 2.5 kids under 5 years old, and took them a few years to figure out this was the right company to be with, but she's got a neat story to share with you, so bring Debbie up here if you would.
Good job. Hi, everybody. Didn't he do a great job? Come on, give him another hand. You know, I'm gonna take you back in history now. We're gonna go back over 20 odd years ago, when we first got started in this industry. And you will agree with me, I know, that you know Rick Seymour has gone through a lot of growth, right? But it all starts with one little step. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Because I got in the business with my husband. We had 27 people on our list. And I'm not kidding, we really racked our brains to put together that list of 27, because we'd only been in the area for about 3 months. So it honestly was a list. And my husband went ahead and shared the business, or tried to contact all those people. We sponsored one person, and our list was gone. He was working 90 hours a week in a corporate job. He was leaving me at home from Monday through Saturday most weeks. And I was a part-time physical therapist with 2 children and another one on the way. I knew that I had to become active in our business to be able to move forward, because we had no list, right? But I was an introvert. Anybody else out there feel there in that category? And I know most of you that are introverts are not putting your hand up right now because you're too shy, right? So that's okay. We can all take a step, right, forward. So I was in that mode. I had a very small comfort zone around me, and it took a lot of courage to step outside of that comfort zone to be able to make my first contact. When I saw people like Rick teaching the amazing things he taught this morning, I agreed with them wholeheartedly. But honestly, I had never initiated a conversation in my life. I'd always responded to a conversation. Anybody relate? Okay, so that was my first step before I even got into doing what Rick was teaching about today, was I needed to learn to initiate a conversation. So here I am, mother of 2 little ones, pregnant, have no credibility in the business world. How am I going to do that? Well, every day I was going out with my children, whether it was to the park, to the grocery store, maybe to a fast food place for lunch, in the playground, wherever it was, I was bumping and rubbing shoulders with other people. And now I had to learn to initiate a conversation. So that's where I began. And it took me about 2 months to begin to initiate conversations. That's where I was. And I know some of you have been there, or maybe some of you are still there right now. It's okay. So I would make a compliment or start up a conversation. If I saw another mother with a little child there, I say, "Your daughter is so well behaved. You're a great mom to have achieved that." And there will begin a conversation. And I'd start to ask her about her family. Is this the only child you have? Are you married? Where do you live? Do you live around here? What do you do for a living? always asking questions, but show that you really care about what they're telling you about too. When I started doing this, I really felt like I had taken my first step outside of my little comfort zone. It doesn't seem like much, does it? But it's a huge deal, because your journey in this business begins with just one small step. And when you've made that one small step, it gives you a little courage. It gives you a little excitement even, because you know you've grown just a little bit to be able to grow a little bit more. So that's where I was. After about 3 months, I was really beginning to get good at this, and I was really making some friends. I hadn't mentioned anything about the business at this point, nor anything about a product even. But at that 3rd month, I finally got to talking to a lady, and she started sharing with me how much her husband hated his job, and he really always wanted to have his own business. And I said, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're telling me this. You know, this might be an absolute shot in the dark. But you know, my husband right now is trying to develop a business in this area, and I'm not even sure if this will work out, but maybe we need to get the two of them on the phone together. Maybe they could have some common interests. She said, absolutely, and gave me her phone number. I played dumb to be smart, because I probably could have shared a lot more with her, asked her a lot more questions, but I knew that my credibility wasn't just there. So I used my husband to contact that person. Now, if you're sitting here and you don't have a husband, please do not use that as an excuse not to move on. Because I happen to know that each one of you in here has somebody in your team that could probably help you and add that credibility to your business as you start it up. So get that contact and make the contact. Now, I felt then, that day, I had taken another step outside my comfort zone that was beginning to grow now, and I was beginning to gain confidence. Had I shown the business? No. I hadn't even shared a product with anyone at this point, but I had found myself a connection with somebody that led to us sitting down and showing the business with them. They didn't get in, by the way, but that wasn't important because I had started. Now, I became better and better at doing this, and finally, I started mentioning the product to people when they talked about their supplement needs or when they started talking about maybe their business needs. It became a little easier, but I always played dumb to be smart because I honestly didn't see myself as having much credibility at this point. And it was about a year into doing this that I finally became quite good at it. I really did. I became a very good listener, and I was able to work out where people were coming from. And one day I was in a McDonald's with my children in the playground, and I met a woman that changed my life. I talked with her for over an hour. We had so much in common, and she had so many big dreams and desires. They were business owners, and they were honestly looking for something to help them out, to get them out of a situation of bankruptcy that they were fast approaching. I went home with that lead, and I got on the phone to my sponsor and said, hey, you'll never guess what? I've just found my first big leader. She said, well done, you must have shown the business. And I said, no, I didn't, because I was shy. But I know that we're going to sit down with this couple, and I know that they are going to be big builders in our business because I can recognize that in them. And sure enough, we sat down with them, we sponsored them, they became the biggest leg in our business. And I did it. I started it. It was so exciting. 2 years into our business, we looked at our organization, and Tony has never been shy. Any of you who know Tony understand that. He's never been shy at contacting people. But we looked at our organization, and over 50% of the people that we have brought into our organization have been from my contacts. So, what I'm telling you, I don't care how shy you are. If there's something you really want to have from this business, You truly can move ahead. But understand, it's one step at a time. One step at a time is going to get you that much closer to your goals. And you, honestly, are going to make huge changes in your life. You're going to become a person you never thought you could be. In fact, you might even be able to stand on a stage one day and teach others about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, we have one more great speaker for you before we're out of here today. And it's really fun for me to introduce somebody who's not a fossil like me. I mean, we've been around this business 39 years, and I love hearing people's perspective who have been in a much shorter time and how they've dealt with these issues. And Tara Doolin is a homeschooling mother of two. She's a fitness instructor. She's a senior coordinator. People who know her well would say that she is the catalyst for vision in the area of finances and fitness and healthy living and finances and that kind of thing. So give her a warm, warm welcome if you would.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? I guess it's almost afternoon, right? Technically it is. It is truly my honor and my privilege to be standing before you guys this morning. So thank you. And if any of you were at the first general session yesterday, then you heard Roger share a little bit about my story. And maybe I'm alone, or maybe I'm not. Has anyone in this room ever experienced any bumps on the road as they're building their business? Awesome! I am not alone. Thank you so much. That makes me feel better. And I hope that as I stand here this morning and share a little bit with you about some of the pearls of wisdom that I've learned on my journey, that it will inspire you to also live your life out loud with a message that counts. So if you guys can pull up the slides for me, that would be awesome. Thank you. So what does that mean? Well, whether you're an introvert, as Debbie mentioned that she was, or an extrovert, more like me, you can choose to live your life out loud with a message that counts. And where I started was, my sponsors are Jenny and Nathan Oates. I think you have probably heard of them, right? So I've learned from them as they've paved the way, and that's one of their pearls of wisdom that I want to share with you. They encouraged me to define where I was going, okay? And so what does that mean? Health is a lifestyle. It's a journey. It's not a destination. We are all somewhere on our journey. And so my goal is to define where I'm going and then invite other people to join me on that road. And so I want to encourage each of you to show others how to make a change by making changes in your own life. So what I did was I decided that I wanted to become known as the go-to person for the areas of health, fitness, and nutrition. Or depending on my audience, in the areas of health, fitness, and finances. So I defined where I was headed. I want to have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy family, and I also want to have financial freedom. Does that sound familiar? So I want to live healthier and I want to live better. So I defined where I'm headed, because if I don't know where I'm going, I'm surely going to get there. Nowhere, right? So define where you're going. Now, I had already done my own personal cinch turnaround 2 years ago. So last year, this time in Vegas, I was sitting there feeling discouraged. I had done my cinch turnaround. I had lost 20 pounds in 12 weeks. It was amazing. I got great results. I had helped other people get results. I earned a trip to Atlantis. I hit coordinator on Fast Track. And then things started to change, because guess what? I hit some bumps in the road. Okay, so I'm sitting there last year and I'm going, okay, I've done these things. I know where I'm headed. I remember Angel Torres said at my new directors conference, he said, the only people that fail in this business are those that quit. I knew I was not going to quit. So what was I going to do? I was listening to what everyone was talking about. I had already committed to my lifestyle changes. I had already done my own 180 turnaround, but I decided I was going to do another one. Why? Because Dr. Jamie was talking about the BMI, and here I am, a fitness instructor, and I know all about that. So I'm discouraged, sitting up in the nosebleed section, and I pulled out my smartphone and Googled a BMI little calculator. And I didn't fall where I expected to fall on that chart. I'm like, okay, obviously I can lose a couple more pounds. So as Roger said, I lost 5 pounds. Wow, 5 pounds. But That translated into 9 inches. Guess what? People notice 9 inches. An inch here, an inch here, an inch here, an inch. Hey, it adds up. So as I made that commitment, because I'm owning my own health, people started coming to me and asking me, what on earth are you doing? And then I have an opportunity to say, I'm so glad you asked. Tell me about your journey. I'd love to talk to you about it, okay? So again, own your own health. People will notice. You will actually, in that process, grow into something you did not know that you could become. So choose to live a healthy life, and then you will invite others to join on your journey. We're talking about the invite, right? So that was my first step. I defined where I was going so that I could share that journey with others. Because why? I'm going to receive what I believe. I'm choosing to move towards that healthy lifestyle. I'm choosing that I will enjoy greater financial freedom, right? So I'm going to receive what I believe. And as I define that, other people are joining me in my journey. Why? Because everywhere I go, I am choosing to live my life out loud with a message that counts. I choose to use Facebook as one way to do that. Now I'm going to show you 2 examples of posts that I've placed on Facebook in the past year. But first of all, please know I do not post messages like this every day, every week, or even every month on Facebook. Okay? I'm living my life out loud with a message that counts. I have 2 beautiful children, little boys. They're adorable. They're amazing. Every little child is amazing, right? So I happen to have 2 amazing ones. One of them is a future Michael Phelps, and one of them is obsessed with percussion. And so they're a lot of fun, and so I put really fun things about the kids, cute things that they say. I'm a homeschool mom, right? So I want to create that image of who I am and show people who I am by sharing positive things about my incredible husband and things I'm enjoying with my children, right? And then every once in a while, I'll throw up something like this. Not throw up, but put up on Facebook something like this, because we do not want to throw up Shackley on people. The reality of it is no one is sitting at home in front of their computer checking Facebook going, I really wish someone would tell me about Shackley. No one's doing that, right? They might be saying, I am exhausted, I can't keep up with my children. They might be saying, I'm so frustrated, I have gained and lost the same 20 pounds for 10 years. Those are the things that people are thinking about, not thinking, could someone please talk to me about Shackley? Okay, so just maintain that perspective. This is one example. I do not want to log on Facebook tonight and see 500 posts like this, okay? So don't use my exact wording. That's not authentic. But again, this is one example of how I'm choosing to live my life out loud with a message that counts. And I'm doing that by inspiring people. It is never too late to gain a new lease on life. Now, why can I say that with authority? Because I've done that myself, right? Okay? So again, this goes in line with integrity and authenticity with the journey that I'm on. It is a journey, and I want to invite people to join me on that journey. I can't remember how many likes I got on Facebook. It was over 40. I got tons of comments. One friend of mine said, oh my goodness, we need to talk. Okay? I got on the phone with her, scheduled an appointment. We're talking about the invite process, right? So that opened the door. I wanted to follow up with her and schedule that appointment so that I could then follow her need, okay? And now she's a 180 specialist of mine growing her own successful business. This is another example. Again, I did not do this the next day, the next week, or even the next month. Maybe it was 2 months later, as I've shared other fun, encouraging, positive things about my family and my story, okay? This is just another example of what I put up there. Real life. I worked out twice today, and I homeschooled my kids, and the day isn't over yet. I hear excuses all the time. So I'm like, no excuses, folks. Come on. I want to inspire people. I'm living my life out loud with a message that counts. So can you. So I'm, again, inspiring people. Notice I did not use Shackley, and I did not put on Facebook, I know you want to come to my 180 party. I didn't do that, but this post got, again, 40 likes, a bunch of comments, so I generated some leads, people that I could follow up with. Tell me more about that. I'd love to talk to you, right? So now I want to just touch on very briefly common pitfalls that I'm sure we've all experienced. Has anyone been nervous in here when you're trying to talk to someone? Am I the only one? Okay, a few of you. Any more? We felt nervous, okay? And I just want to encourage you, don't overthink inviting. Keep it simple. Remember, your purpose is to have a meaningful conversation, to be a friend, to make a friend. That's your goal. You do want to make an appointment, but don't put that ahead of your true goal to be a friend and make a friend, all right? Another common pitfall that I've seen many people in my organization, including myself in the beginning, fall into is that we think we have to share Shaklee. Like, oh my gosh, I've got someone's attention. I need to tell them everything I've ever heard about Vitalizer. How many patents does Vitalizer have again? Do I need to memorize every detail of every single study that is written about in the back of that product guide so that I can tell them all of the details about that landmark study? They don't care about the landmark study, do they? No. I care about the landmark study because I know the value of that. How did that work for you? So I'm not sharing Shaklee. I just want to get the appointment. I want them to be curious, they can't wait to sit down with me to find out what I'm going to talk to them about. Another common pitfall is forgetting your goal because you're sharing Shaklee instead of getting the appointment, okay? Remember, you want to be a friend, make a friend, and make an appointment. And if you don't know what to say, that can contribute to those nerves as well. So get them talking, as Rick was sharing, right? Ask the right questions. Ask those open-ended questions. What did you do this weekend? I love your shirt. Where'd you get it? Your children are so cute. Do you have other children? What do you do? Those are great questions to ask, right? Open-ended questions. Draw them out. So my goal every single day is to simply have meaningful conversations. So wherever you are, make it a goal to connect with others, to be a friend and have a meaningful conversation, and to draw them out by asking those open-ended questions, not yes or no questions, okay? Because as I'm doing that, I'm actually consciously listening for a sign, a strength and interest, a goal, or a need that I can then wrap my invitation around. I remember, Sally, that you mentioned that your husband had been out of work for a year. Has he found anything yet? What's going on with that situation? Tell me more, okay? So again, I'm listening to what they're saying in that meaningful conversation. Has anyone ever thought, I don't have anyone that I can talk to? Has that thought ever crossed your mind? Am I the only one? Okay, a few of you are being honest. Good. I have great news for you. There are billions of people on this planet. You have not talked to everybody. There are thousands of people in your community, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in your greater living area, okay, that you can talk to. So if you feel like you have completely tapped out, then I encourage you to take a step outside of that comfort zone and join a gym or find a hobby, okay? So I don't care what the hobby is. It could be furniture polishing, mopping floors, basket weaving, whatever it is, make a friend, be a friend. Get involved. I mean, I have little boys. They're 6 and 8 years old, so they get invited to birthday parties. Instead of just dropping them off, like the invitation says, I'm going to ask the mom, hey, can I hang out? I'd love to help you. Right? So I'm serving her. Now I have an opportunity to strike up a conversation with her. Meet some moms. I'm going to connect with the little kids. You can find out all sorts of information from kids. They'll tell you anything. How's your daddy's job going? They'll tell you anything. Oh, he hates it. My other comment there was work out. Feel better yourself. Invite people to join you on your journey. Volunteer. There are dozens, hundreds of opportunities to get involved in your community. Volunteer at your children's school, field trips in the community. Serve people. Start a club, a book club, a running club, a walking club, any kind of club. There are limitless possibilities to reach out to the thousands of people that live in your community. Okay? So be a friend and have meaningful conversations everywhere you go. And please remember that every year in Shaklee is a new opportunity for you. The only people that fail in this business are those that quit. So be committed to live your life out loud with a message that counts in your community, and listen for that sign. Listen for that strength, interest, goal, or need as you're having those meaningful conversations, being a friend and making friends. Make a difference, guys. Thank you.